Baruch Hashem, we're back. We're back to our blessed routine of Harabatzas Torah after magnificent days of Yom Tov. Truly magnificent days, days of glory. Nothing is more beautiful than Yom Tov. And for me personally, Chalamoid is huge. Unprecedented Harabatzas Torah. Every day of Chalamoid I gave 2 or 3 shiurim, hundreds, even thousands of people that attended the shiurim. And family. What's more beautiful than seeing the family together? Va'afal piken, we miss Yom Tovim, but we're also so grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the blessed routine of our Batzas Torah. So Baruch Hashem, we're back. This week is Parashat Kedoshim, and the sugya we'll be discussing today is Netilat Yadayim. Brochas Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Chazal say, V'his kadishtem v'hisem kedoshim, v'hit kadishtem ela mayim shoynim, v'hisem kedoshim mayim achroinim. But all the Rishonim explain, this is not a diurais, it's not a drosha gemur, it's only an asmachta. So what is the reason for Netilat Yadayim? That's a different gemara. Churin, Kuf, Vav, Amud, Aleph. The gemara says, Omer Bitzok bar Ashiyan, Mishum Srach Truma. Chazal gazru tuma al yadayim, and therefore a kohen needs Netilat Yadayim before he eats truma. And people should not confuse truma and chulin, a kohen and a zar. And that's why they broaden the gezerah. Every individual that eats pas, sorech Netilat Yadayim. And that very same sugya, Abaye says, mitzvah l'shmoya divrei chachamim. Rava says, mitzvah l'shmoya divrei Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach was a Tana, a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and he says a different source for the mitzvah of Netilat Yadayim. V'yodav lo shataf b'mayim. Nachlaku Rashi v'toises. According to Rashi, Abaye isn't machadish anything. He just says, mitzvah l'shmoya divrei chachamim shetiknu Netilat Yadayim. According to Toises, Abaye has a different rationale, a different reasoning. Not Srach Truma, but Nikius. Toises Psochim Kuf Tes Vav Amud Aleph says, Kedusha v'Nikius. Oid Nechel Kurashi v'Toises, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, Yodav lo shota b'mayim, according to Rashi, it's Min HaTorah. Toises says, this is also an asmachta. Another point of interest, Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Netilat Yadayim Letfila Tzorech Kli. Why do we need a kli? Rashba, quoting the Bahag. We learn this from Kiddush Yadayim b'Migdosh, Menakir, or from Kiddush Efer Chatos. So, just our brief introduction is already quite complicated to asmachtas. V'skadishtem v'isem kedoshim v'yodav lo shotav b'mayim. 3 reasonings, 3 tamim. Srach Truma Nikios, maybe Kedoshim and Nikios. 2 sources, svoras, based on Kodeshim. Why do we need a kli b'Netilat Yadayim? Koyanei HaMikdash, Makir, or maybe Kiddush Efer Chatos. So it's quite complicated. 3 tamim, 2 asmachtas, 2 demyonis to Kodeshim. And why dafka pas? The Levush, Kuf Nun Ches Sif Aleph, quoted by the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotten Beis Shulchan Aruch Sif Aleph. It's all about Srach Truma. Truma Min HaTorah is only Dagon. Tirish v'Yitzer is mashka. You drink with a cup, you drink with a bottle, so you don't touch the Truma. But pas, you touch the pas, and it's the only Truma D'Oraisa. Though this explanation is reasonable according to the Ravid. But twice, Hilchas Trumas Beis Aleph, Hilchas Meiser Aleph Tes. The Rashba maintains that Trumas Peiros Min HaTorah. The Ravid says only Dogon is Min HaTorah. So the Levush is reasonable according to the Ravid. It doesn't fit in with the Rambam. I think according to Rambam we must say like the Sharat Tziyun says, according to Toises, Nekiyas Kedusha, why only pas? Because that corner was only by Sudas Kava. Va'odam koiveya su'uda ala pas. And that will be our explanation according to the Rambam, that Trumas Peiros is also Min HaTorah. So today we discuss Netilat Yadayim Lesuda. I just want to point out there are 4 different halachas of Netilat Yadayim. Suda is only one of them. And each and every one of these halachas has its own details and different halachas. Lo harei ze kaharei ze. Netilat Yadayim Lesuda needs a kli. Netilat Yadayim Letfilo, totally different source. Brochas Tezvav Amud Aleph. Based on the posek, Erchatz ben a kohen kapi v'soiva vois mizbachacho Hashem. Tzadik Bey Siv Daled and Shulchan Aruch also on Siv Daled. Different din. Netilat Yadayim b'yotzim ha'beis hakisa. Siv Daled and Simakuf Samech Hey. 2 different Gemaras. Bava Kama Yud Zayin Amid Beis Sukkah Mem Vav Amid Aleph. Rabbi B'Chona meets Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is coming out of the bathroom and he asks a shaila and halacha. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't respond till after Netilat Yadayim. So yotzim ha'beis hakisim ha'beis hamerchetz is not allowed to say Edvar Torah or L'hoitzi Shem Shemaim only if Netilat Yadayim. And then when you got up in the morning, you wash your hands 3 times right hand, 3 times left hand. B'zeh achar zeh b'sirugin. Ruach Ra. That's a Gemara Shabbos Kuftes Amud Aleph. So we have 4 different concepts of Netilat Yadayim. Suda, Tefillah, Beis HaKisa, Shkomes HaBroika. But today's shir is focused on Netilat Yadayim Letfillah, based on the posek in this week's Parashat. Very briefly, Mayim Achroinim. That's a Gemara Chulin Kuf Hey. Melech Zdoimes Shemesamet Ha'einayim. So salt coming from Zdam might cause blindness. It will destroy your eyesight. And that is why Chazal were mitaken Netilat Yadayim. But there's another reasoning as well, Mishum Zohame. Because when you eat and your hands become filthy, then you cannot really bench with dirty hands. Taisvis, 3 sources in Shas. Brochas Nun Gimel. Mesechet Chulin Kufei. Erev and Yud Zayin Amid Beis. Taisvis says, Bezman Hazeh, there is no chiyuv of Netilas of Mayim Achroinim. Because Melech Zdoim is not common. And we usually use eating utensils, forks, spoons, knives. In days of Europe, people ate with their fingers. Other Rishonim do not differentiate between Bisman Hazeh B'Yamei Kedem. Shulchan Aruch Kuf Pei Aleph Sif Aleph Mayim Achroinim Chayva. Very short sif, 3 words. But there are kama v'kama sif and Shulchan Aruch 3 words. The shortest sif in Dalet Chak Shulchan Aruch is 2 words, and I won't tell you where it is. Finish Dalet Chak Shulchan Aruch, and I promise you'll find it. Kuf Pei Aleph Sif Aleph Mayim Achroinim Chayva. But in Sif Yud, the Shulchan Aruch writes, Yesha einom noyagim liton mayim achroinim bizman hazeh. What is the ikar opinion of the Shulchan Aruch? The Aka Moshe quotes Taisvis. Bizman hazeh, it's not a chiyuv. Sharash Shuvas Nechba Bekesav and some other achroinim say, Ikar das Shulchan Aruch, mayim achroinim is a chiyuv. And that is why he writes in Sif Aleph mayim achroinim chayvo. It is only in Sif Yud that he brings the other minag. Others say no. Mayim Achroinim Chayva is just quoting the Gemara. Essentially, basically, fundamentally, it's a Chayva. However, Bizman Hazeh, it's no longer a Chayva. Mishnah Berurah twice, Sivkot Nalef, Sivkot Chav Beis, the Mishnah Berurah is Machmer, and he says, the majority of Achroinim say, Mayim Achroinim is a Chayva, even Bizman Hazeh, especially Al Pi Kabbalah. The Yochel Shulchan generally is a Mekel. But in Sif Hey, Kuf Pei Aleph, he writes, Kol Yerei Shamayim should be makbid in Mayim Achroinim. And that is our minhag. So after some brief introductions, let's go a bit more into the lumdus of the mitzvah of Netilat Yadayim. Mitzvah omatio, fundamentally, is it essentially an isur. You're not allowed to eat pas without Netilat Yadayim. And Netilat Yadayim just permits eating pas, but it's not by its very nature a mitzvah, but rather a matiyah. And I address these concepts many different sources in my Sforim and also in Shiurim. Erusin, matir o mitzvah. Shchita, matir o mitzvah. Eruv Tavshilin, Matir or Mitzvah. A person has no intention of cooking, no intention of baking. He doesn't intend to do any Malacha Miyom Tov L'Shabbos. Could he still say a Baruch on Eruv Tavshilin? I'm just giving you a touch of what these concepts are, Matir or Mitzvah. How about Netilas Yadayim? I think it's a machlokes in Achronim. Oinein, does he eat bread without Netilas Yadayim or not? Berkei Yosef. Berkei Yosef, Shin Mem Aleph, Yoredeya, Hilchos Averis. Hilchos Averis Siv Koten Hey, quoted by the Mishnah Brura, Ayin Aleph Zayin, says, even an Oinen doesn't say a broch on Pasi, doesn't say a broch on Netilas Yadayim, but he still needs a Netilas Yadayim, because essentially it's an Issa. An Oinen can't eat nevelis. He can't eat treif. Netilas Yadayim is a matir. It is all about osor, lechol, pas, beli Netilas Yadayim. But the Mishnah Berurah in Tov Reish Mem, which is a different source, Sif Kot Lamed Aleph, Shartzin Sif Kot Mem Ches, quotes the other opinion, the Bekuri Yankov, that says, Netilas Yadayim is just like any other mitzvah Bekim Vaseh, and therefore an Oinen should not do Netilas Yadayim before eating pas. Mishnah Berurah, two different sources, quotes two different opinions. What is the machlokes essentially? Matir or mitzvah? And l'choire depends what is the rationale behind Netilas Yadayim. If it's all about Srach Truma, obviously it's a matir. It's all about the prohibition to eat Truma, B'tumas Yadayim, Gzeir Zar Otu Koyin. But if it's about Nekiyas and Kedusha, that would be like any other mitzvah. Tzorech leskadesh lechol pas. Another question, which is a fascinating sugya. The Ritva is Machadish Dav Kuvav, and the Ritva says, I discussed this with my Rebbe, and he agreed to my opinion. Person not Yodov, and he had the intention to eating bread. And then he regretted, and he decided, I don't want to eat bread. So a person sat down in a restaurant, and he didn't act according to halacha, because halacha you don't do Netilas Yadayim before the pas is on the table. First of all, Notalas Yodov, and he said a bracha, and then the waiter brings the bread, and it looks awful. He lost his appetite. He's repulsed by the way the rolls look, and he decides, I don't want to wash up. I don't want to eat bread. Would the bracha be a bracha of a tola? If you don't eat bread, you don't have a mitzvah of Netilas Yadayim. The Ritva says no. When he washed, he had the intention to eat bread, and therefore that was his chiyuv. And if that was his chiyuv in real time, it's not a bracha of a tola. Even at the end, he does not eat bread. That's a chiddush. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was asked the shaila. Leil Chanukah, a person lit his shamish. He said the bracha, but before he lights the Chanukah candles, he notices that his wife isn't in the room, and she just went to see a neighbor for a few minutes to get something, and he didn't want to light the Chanukah without his wife being present. So he put out the shamish, he waited, and when she came back, he said the bracha again. And the Rav said, that's according to the Ritva. And I told that Rav, that's a terrible mistake and a misunderstanding. If you say Berachas a mitzvah, you don't do the mitzvah, definitely is a bracha levatolo, regardless of why you didn't do the mitzvah. If you say Berachas an hanan on food, and you didn't eat, it's a bracha levatolo, regardless why you didn't eat. The Ritva deals with a totally different scenario. You said a bracha Netilas Yadayim, and you did Netilas Yadayim. But then if you don't eat pas, then obviously there was no need to do Netilas Yadayim. But you performed the act on which you made a bracha, and that is why it's not a bracha levatolo. But if you say a bracha l'adlukas nechanukah, la'adik nechanukah, and you're not ma'adik nechanukah, that definitely is a bracha levatolo. But I told the Rav, don't feel bad, because 4 great achronim made the same mistake that you did. Amudei Eish, Shas Teshuvas Simen Beis, and he discusses any berachas a mitzvah, and he says, berachas a mitzvah, and you had intention to do the mitzvah. and at the end, for some reason, you didn't do the mitzvah, it's not a bracha levatola, according to the Ritva. And I say, that's a mistake. If you didn't do the mitzvah, it's a bracha levatola. The Ritva only speaks about a scenario. The bracha is on Netilas Yadayim, and he did Netilas Yadayim. Zdei Chemed, Mareches HaBrocha Semachov Tes argues, the Ritva is the Ritva, but the Rashba is choilek on the Ritva, and therefore, person should eat bread, even if lo ba'alecha. You don't like the way it looks. Eat, because otherwise it might be a bracha levatola. Not according to the Ritva, but according to the Rashba. Which Rashba? The Rashba, Chuvas, Cherak Aleph Siman Yud Ches, the Rashba says, we don't say Berachas HaMitzvah on any bracha that's totally b'yad acherim, because maybe those others won't cooperate, and at the end you would not do the mitzvah, and it would be a bracha levatola. Stechem says, according to the Ritva, it's not a bracha levatola, and I say it is. If for any reason you didn't do the mitzvah, it is a bracha levatola. Har Tzvi had the same misunderstanding. Reb Tzvi Pesach Franken or Chaim Simen Tzadik Tet. And I said for Achronim, the Chido, Moire le'etzma. So the Chido deals with Sfiras Uoimam. You said a bracha, you counted a few days, and then you forgot. It's not a bracha l'tolam afrei according to the Ritva, but this is closer to the Ritva. Because yesterday night when you said the bracha, you did count Svira, but the other night you forgot. And according to the Lochas Gedolos, all the nights are dependent one on the other, but that is more similar to the Ritva. So this is a big chiddush of the Ritva. What would compare to the Ritva? I have a very clear thought. Person is kaveh mezuzah bepesach beisoi. He put his furniture in, he put his belongings in, but he didn't want to be one moment without a mezuzah. So he was kaveh the mezuzah with a bracha before he actually moved in, and then he decides, I'm not moving in. His wife saw a mouse in the house. She will never live in this house. Is it a bracha levatola? Mezuzah choy v'sadar. Kach lamadnu b'menoches and Dav Daled Mesechet Psachim. There's no mitzvah of mezuzah unless you live in the house. And at the end, he didn't move into the house. Would it be a bracha levatola? That would be exactly domia to the question of the Ritva. He said a bracha Netilas Yadayim. He did Netilas Yadayim. But if you don't eat bread, then Netilas Yadayim wasn't a mitzvah. He said a bracha mezuzah. He was kaveh the mezuzah. But if you don't move into the house, wasn't a mitzvah. That is exactly the Ritva. Would I say the same regarding a Frosh Tomasisis? At the end, he didn't eat the fruit. Shlit. At the end, he didn't eat meat. Almost the same, but not the same. Because Shlit and a Frosh Tomasisis are also a chalois. Frosh Tomasisis turns tevel into chulin mitukonim. Turns chulin into truma. Shchita turns the Eva Menachai and Avela into Heter. And therefore the bracha definitely would not be a bracha levatola. Because essentially he didn't have a chiyuv, but he did perform a mitzvah. Netilas Yadayim is different. Netilas Yadayim is only a mitzvah if you eat pas. Kviyas mezuzah is only a mitzvah if you move into the house. And therefore I think these two would be exactly the same. And I don't think that Rashba disagrees with the Ritva, and therefore I think the Ritva is halacha psuka. So today we discussed a very interesting sugya and a very important sugya. So Netilas Yadayim is only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, but it seems to be so important. Erev and Chofanav the Beis Chazal tell an amazing story. Rebbe Kiva is sitting in the Roman dungeon, and he's preparing for his death, preparing with Kedusha and Tahara and Simcha. He knows what's waiting for him. Kol yomai hoisi mitzdayer al apostle kazet. And Yeshua Garsi is his shamish. Every day he brings him a bottle of water. One day, Shomer Beis Asurim, the cop, the policeman sitting outside, says, "You have too much water. I'm afraid you're going to dig a tunnel." Spills out half of the quantity of water. And when Yeshua Garsi comes into the Bekiva is saddened, and he says, "Yeshua, why do you bring me so little water? I'm old, I'm sick. I'm in a bad state." Yeshua Garsi apologizes, and he says, "It's not me. It's that Russia that's sitting outside." And then Bekiva tells him, Yeshua Garsi, "Give me the water, I want to do Netilat Yadayim." And Yeshua objects, and he says, "Ma lishtois eino megiyim Netilat Yadayim megiyim." You don't have enough water to drink. Why will you spill it out for Netilat Yadayim? And Bekiva says, "Mutav almost misasatzmi v'lo avor al divrei chevayrei." I prefer to die a natural death of thirst, and I will not eat without Netilat Yadayim. And whenever I quote this story, this Gemara, I say it's so amazing, it's so powerful, it's so profound. Rebbe Akiva is willing not only to give away his life for Netilat Yadayim, he's willing to give away his death for Netilat Yadayim. Rebbe Akiva is preparing, and his life's dream is about to be fulfilled. Kol yomai hoisi mitztayar ala posek hazeh mosa yovel yodi v'akaymena, and he's willing to forgo that dream for Netilat Yadayim. So obviously Netilat Yadayim is so important. And why is it so important? Torah de Beliyo, Perek Tezvov says, "Hu'echel pas b'ro Netilat Yadayim kilu b'ro le'eshesish." Eshesish is chorus, Mises Beis-Din. Soite danadom et beis kilu bo'al ishu zayno. Keren oira. The Talmud of Reb Chaim Volozhin explains in a Sefer Soite Dav Daled. And he brings the minig. When you do Netilat Yadayim, you lift your hands and you say, "Se'u yadechem kodesh uvalchu es Hashem." It's a machloikes. Is it a hefsek? Is it not a hefsek? Some recommend saying it before Netilat Yadayim, before the bracha. Kenoida explains, we lift our hands as if to say, "Rabboni Shalom." We want to eat and do everything l'shem Shemayim. So once upon a time, all you had to work and provide was your 2 hands and your 10 fingers. Manual labor was everything we had. Even today, well, you got to use a computer. You need hands to use your computer. Person's hands symbolize all his earthly achievements and endeavors. We lift our hands and say, "Rabboni Shalom." We want to eat l'shem Shemayim. We want to work l'shem Shemayim. Whatever we do, all our endeavors should be directed only l'kvod Shemayim. And then the Keren Orah says in Pnimius al Pi Kabbalah, it goes far deeper. The very first sin was the chet of Eitz Hadas. Eitz Hadas was Taivis Achila. Nechmad Le'einayim. They couldn't control their Taivis. And therefore, when we come to eat a Sudas Klal, we lift our hands to the heavens and say, "Rabboni Shalom." We want to do this l'shem Shemayim. Only l'shimchu hagadol, and that is the tikkun of chet Eitz Hadas. So it is no wonder that Chazal said, "V'hiskadishtem v'hiyisem kedoshim." Your kedusha depends on Netilat Yadayim, and that is why this is so important. I just want to say, so few people are actually familiar in Hilchos Netilat Yadayim. So very few people. And when you stand next to the sink and you see people waiting in line in shul and doing Netilat Yadayim, it is so sad to see that most of them aren't Netilat Yadayim kezas ukedin. So I think it is very important and highly recommended that everyone learns Hilchos Netilat Yadayim. It's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, but it's fundamental, it's basic, it's essential. Se'u yadechem kodesh uvarchu es Hashem. So I hope today's shiur was interesting. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishlach lanu Mashiach tzidkenu. We should be zoicha b'kora b'yameinu. כי ימייצייסכם מארץ מצרים, ערנו נפלויס, בביאס משיח צדקנו במהרו ויומנו אמן.